last week, and by the way, there's no popping at all today.
It's unbelievable. I don't know. I don't
There's
even
no
know.
popping. But
Last week you cut out. Your microphone cut out like halfway through. Did you know that?
No, what happened?
So something happened. Golly, what was it? Something happened in the middle of you talking, and like it kind of like popped a little bit or something, and then it came back on. And when it came back on, it was your
computer.
You didn't have your AirPods in last week, did you?
No.
It must have been your computer.
That's
like it was very clear that it changed, but I'm like, I'm not going to say anything because at this point there's not really anything you can do, and we'll just roll with it and whatever. So
at this point it is what it is. Well, I'm not changing anything today as long as I'm on my Scarlet, right?
You sound good.
Yeah, I'm not changing anything because my headphones are working right. I hear me perfect. I hear you. This is what it sounded like in the beginning. But but last week though, I noticed, and this is the thing that you mentioned. You mentioned this before we started, and you said, "Oh wow, it has no dial on the gain to tell us where it's at."
Right.
And I didn't know, and so when I went and listened to it, we were like, totally off.
Yeah, I noticed that. We'll get there.
But I'm like, man, we need a live sound engineer. We've reached that point.
We really do. We really do. Because it's hard. It's hard in the moment, especially with both of us with how do I get on that group? ADD.
Yeah.
Like in the moment, because when it happened, I was like, I started to text you, and I was like, no, because he's in the flow.
Yeah.
And if I text you, I know you're going to see it. It's going to come through, or do the private chat, and you're going to be like trying to figure it out and lose your train of thought. And
it would have really messed me up because on my end, what happened was it like restarted and it showed me as a guest. And that's why I couldn't see the chat.
Oh, that's right. You bounced off for a second.
Uh-huh.
That's what it was.
See, I couldn't see the chat. I couldn't see the chat. The chat wasn't popping up, but I was logged in. And then all of a sudden the screen went blank, and then I came back on and it said guest, and the whole rest of the thing, there was a bar across the top that said something. It was in yellow. I can't remember what it was.
What in the world?
Yeah.
That's crazy, man.
I know.
All right, let me get X rolling here real quick, and then we'll be ready to go. Ready to go at 10:10. What?
I know. I already had an X group. I already had an X group at 8:00 this morning.
What?
Got an X group. I got an X group by Zoom at 11:15.
Let's go. Not playing this year, are you?
No. Had 31 first-time guests at church Sunday.
Come on now. Man, I don't know about you guys. We've had so much sickness and stuff going through our church. It's been a little bit rough the last few weeks. We had a good Sunday, but
yeah,
it's been a little bit rough.
We have thankfully negotiated around that a little bit. It's been in the daycare, but it hasn't hit the church. But today, one of the daycare teachers called off they got up. I think it was daycare, it might have been school, but anyway, their child was like 102 fever. So it's like, and that's church. That was a church person. So
yeah, it's brutal. It's brutal.
Here we go.
Well, especially with the weather changes and all the stuff going on, it's going to make it tough. So You want to give us, speaking of which, do you have access to?
It's up. Everything is good today.
Let's go. Give us a Chief Meteorologist Ken Bastarkey weather report on the ones.
Chief Meteorologist Ken Bastarkey checking in from Northeast Ohio in the Cleveland area. He's telling us today it is 39 degrees with a high of 46, a heat wave in Northeast Ohio this week. And he sends a special message along to all of our listeners and viewers. Happy New Year.
There you go. The friendly meteorologist Ken Bastarkey.
Yes. The Mr. Rogers of meteorology.
That's exactly right. Okay, so we're going to get rocking and rolling. We're just going to go right into it, and just right now and for the next few weeks, like we're probably going to the the shenanigans are probably going to be a little bit limited. I mean, there'll be shenanigans. There's no doubt about that, but it'll be a little bit limited.
We might even, do you think we may even go back to our 9:45, jump on at 9:45 and do it? That was our rhythm for 3 or 4 years. And then we slid to 10.
We did.
But we didn't backslide. We forward slid.
Forward slid. and then it seems like the last several weeks, it's gone like we're starting at 10:35, which is crazy.
I don't even know about all that. We are doing, by the way, we're doing my brother and I are going to be in the Ontario district doing the Momentum Conference, which is their ministers conference. And that's going to be this weekend. And then we're both staying over in Ontario and ministering as well. So it's pretty cool.
Looking forward to that. So for some reason in the wintertime, we go north. I don't know what that's all about. But
like here we are in Minnesota. We were in Minnesota 2 years ago. You're right. Minnesota. So here's our January, February for our last 3 years. Minnesota, Connecticut, Canada.
Actually.
Oh wait, we're gonna
back up because I can't remember when it was, but we did Michigan.
Oh my goodness! So was that in the wintertime?
I feel like it was in the wintertime.
That was 3 years ago, wasn't it? Or like 2022. It
may not have been like January, February. It may have been more like March, but it was cold. I remember that. So yeah. So any of you people in the South,
yeah, we're
available.
We need some of the southern districts to step up. We're entering the transfer portal.
Hello. With that being said, I am entering the transfer portal. All right, let's go. Let's rock and roll today.
Let's do it.
All right, here we go. 3, 2, 1. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Mobilized Church Podcast. This is Chris Dillingham alongside my big brother, Ken Dillingham Jr. III, on the first podcast of 2026, ready to ring in the new year. Come on, somebody.
Come on, somebody.
It's going to be
ringing it in.
It's going to be a good year. We're locked and loaded, bro.
We are. It's one of those days where it's like we have our game face on from the get-go. As you said earlier, no shenanigans today.
No shenanigans today.
Michael Hanks.
Absolutely not.
Okay.
Yeah.
Michael Hanks just did the mic drop. Lord. We're done. Podcast is over. That's all we needed to hear. The Lord has spoken.
That's exactly right.
How do you talk past the Lord?
No, you can't. You just need to just embrace that moment. So we're in agreement. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The Dillingham group needs to go back to Cali. Going back to Cali.
That's like Brother Bernard. When Brother Bernard in a board meeting, he'll say he'll be. He's not trying to push something through, but he just gets to rolling, and he'll say, all right. He said, we got a motion and a second. All in favor. He said we have a. He said he'll go. We have a motion. Do we have any discussion? No discussion. Do we have a second? Second, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion carried. And he's on to the next deal. And I'm like, this is awesome.
He's not playing.
He's not, and he's not trying to. He's not ramrodding something.
Yeah.
Like he's not ramrodding it. He's rocking it, man. Like if and then you learn the rhythm. Yeah. And when you're in the meeting, you learn the rhythm and you understand. Like if there's a discussion, you got to have your hand up when the motion comes.
You better be ready. Don't be sleeping. You better be ready to rock and roll.
Like, wait a minute. Did we discuss the so-and-so? Well, no, we passed it.
You missed it. Sorry.
What were you doing? Oh, well, man, I was checking Facebook. What?
I feel like that's the way the podcast is going to be. You can't sleep on this, bro. 2026 is a new day.
Bro, we got snoozers or losers, bro.
We got X groups. We got all kinds of stuff going. We ain't got time to play. It's a new day. It's a new year. We're ready to just keep rolling along. So speaking of which, you ready to get going today?
Let's do it.
Because this is going to be a good one, and it might take us a little bit to get through some of this.
Well, we can't we got 8 things. We can't spend 10 minutes on each one. I was
very
doing
practical.
I was doing the timing. I was looking 10-16. If we spend 5 minutes on each of the 8, that is 11.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'll tell you what, why don't you do this? This is kind of your brainchild. So why don't you give us a little background and a little insight, and then let's go straight into the 8 things.
All right. So here's what we got right now. Okay. So the 8 things, we're talking about the 8 things. This is powerful. And I want you to, here it is. I got somebody right now in the middle. We're recording the podcast, and I have my producer is in the house.
The producer's in the house.
The producer's in the house, bringing me gifts, bearing gifts. So you don't reject
gotta love
that.
it.
Thank you, producer.
Well, let me. You want me to give you a little time to?
No. I'm good. I'm good.
Okay, all right.
I'm good. My healthy meal has arrived.
Let's go.
Okay. So one of the things that we talk about, and we have talked about this, and this is really important, is that we need to have fruit to root discussions. Mm-hmm. And what that means is that the events of life, whether it's the choices of people, whether it's life circumstances, whether it's world events, whatever it is, predominantly happen outside our scope of influence, right? At the end of the day, there isn't much that happens in the world beyond me that I truly have control over. And I think if we really get a hold of that, right, that there are so many things that happen in the course of a day. You think about every person in your life, all individually has a will. Every person in your life has a will. And then the people you don't know have a will. And so when you start rippling out and you think about the web of influence and you think about the web of decision making, that all interconnects and sometimes has a net effect on me. There is, there's the possibility that even what happened in Venezuela this week or this past weekend will trickle to us either negatively or positively. And so what we need to understand is that we don't have control over everything that has an effect on us.
Yeah.
And yet none of us enjoy the feeling that we're being controlled by other things, because it doesn't produce a sense of strength and security. So we need to ask, what are the things that I can control and what are the things I cannot control? Because trying to be in control is a common human defense mechanism, right? And that human defense mechanism, trying to be in control, is, people try to micromanage their life, and then they try to micromanage others, and then that affects their relationships. And so even there's sometimes people who quit, like they back away, they withdraw. So Murray Bowen in Family Systems Theory said that there's really only 2 responses. People either run to it and try to control it, or they back away from it and said, look, I didn't do it, whatever. And so today, I think that as we think about fruit to root and we think about God transforming us, I think it's really, really vital for us to understand that that the 8 things I cannot do starts with the first thing: I cannot control everything.
Absolutely. And I think that's such a, I think sports, again, I hate to keep going back to this, but man, sports helps train you in so many ways if it's done right. And one of the blessings I think that we've had, like, as growing up and playing sports, whatever, we've had coaches that will tell us, control the controllables, right? You can only control what you can control. You can only control yourself. I was even reading a deal about Saban and about his philosophy. And his philosophy was he doesn't focus on outcomes. He only focuses on processes.
I saw
that.
That's so good.
And it's so good because, and he's like, there are so many things that play into an outcome that you can't control. But what you can control is you can control the processes. You can control your investment into it. You can control your daily habits. You can control, your discipline, like all of that kind of stuff. And the reality is, okay, here's the reality. We live in a world where I just saw this statistic the other day, and I'm not going to get the wording exactly right, but basically they said midlife crisis is no longer midlife crisis, that now 20s is the new 50s.
Are you serious?
Because the anxiety and the things that people felt in their 50s, it's now predominantly felt for people in their 20s. Why? Because we live in a world where there's so many inputs and so many different things. And there's this kind of feeling you mentioned about Venezuela, right? It's not even so much the Venezuela situation. It's all of the other factors around it that we can't control, and people and whatever. And this inability, this recognition, and this realization that there are just a lot of things that impact me that are beyond my control produce so much fear and produce so much anxiety. And so kind of the conversation today is, like you said, the first thing is there are things that I cannot control. That's number one. And coming to that awareness, coming to that acknowledgement of saying, I can only control me. That's my responsibility.
That's it.
And understanding that he's in control, and I don't have to fix, and I don't have to control everybody. I don't have to get everything in its right place because God's in control in the first place, which is a fruit to root. If you're a person who's trying, like you said, either to over control or you're just absolving yourself of all responsibility, neither of those are a healthy response. Needs a fruit to root conversation. What is the real root of what's going on in your life that's producing that fruit?
And the cool thing about that is, Chris, is that when we finally come to the conclusion, when we arrive at this place where we understand that I can't control everything, really, I can't control much. God's in control. And that's the beginning of faith. And I think when we talk about fruit to root, and this might be a good point to just simply interject, that when we talk about fruit to root, we're discussing this idea that if God is in control, then let him be in control. And if you start trying to be in control, then that means that it might be evidence that there's an unbelief in some place of your life that he's not in control.
Absolutely right.
Yeah. And Chris, the thing about it is as it relates to like our life on mission, as it relates to our discipleship, our relationships, our marriage, the closest relationships of our life, our church, we begin to understand that control is a defense mechanism.
Mm-hmm.
Influence is a fruit of knowing who's in control. I think if we could really think about, if we could have this tension that says, right, Colossians 1:16 and 17 says, for by him all things were created that are in heaven and that are on earth, visible and invisible, whether thrones or dominions, principalities or powers, all things were created through him and for him. And he is before all things, and in him all things consist. So when we try to be in control, we keep scheming and working out our best strategies. And there's nothing wrong with strategies so long as they're the result of having the mind of God on something. In other words, I've prayed. I know what God wants here. I'm going to move toward that. I'm going to execute the God plan. And then what we can do is in that moment, as we're being transformed, as we're living in that transformation of knowing, look, God's in control. He's the creator. He's sovereign. He's got power.
Yeah.
I'm safe.
Yeah.
Now what I can do is I can begin to use godly influence to begin to allow the control of the Lord and the sovereignty of the Lord to affect other people. And that right there is so healthy.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. The unbelief part really is that's the nail ahead of the nail. Like that's really the root of what's going on when we are attempting to control things. And it's a delicate balance because we have responsibilities and there are things that we have the duty and responsibility to do. And yet that lends us to that place of kind of being trying to overly control things because there's this fear of like, well, if I don't do this, what's going to happen to us? And so this is why, again, the tension, right? The polar opposite ends of the spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
You've got over control, dominating. I've got to be in charge and in control of every aspect of my life.
Yeah.
And then the laissez-faire.
Yeah.
It is what it is, whatever,
C'est la
no
vie.
big deal. C'est la vie. And so that balance, being held in attention, will put you in that balance to where you do what you can do, but then there's also has to be that trust that God is in control. And you have that, if you feel the pull one way or the other, it should be evidence of unbelief in us.
Yeah. And that leads us into the second one. And I think one of the ways that we understand, 8 things that we cannot do. I cannot I cannot control everything. And as we move into this, I think one thing, Chris, to be able to say, especially in relationships, how do I know if I'm influencing or controlling? I think if we divide those two words out and we say, look, you can't control anything.
Yeah.
Because you cannot wrest control away from God. You can only operate. This is weird, man, but like you can only operate inside the context of his sovereign power and will.
Sure.
Anything that you're trying to control, you're taking something that's God's.
Sure.
And so maybe if we remove the word control and say control is something, the Bible says if any man's entered into rest, he ceased from his own works. So if we say, well, what I'm going to do is I'm not going to control anything. God's in control. What I'm going to do then is I'm going to use my influence.
Yes.
To do the things that I can do. I'm not controlling anything. I'm just doing the things that I can do and leaving the control up to God. Man, I think, and I think it's evidenced in relationships.
There you go.
Because if we start trying to, if we're in control mode, so, well, I'm not trying to control it. I'm just trying to influence it. You said influence it. Okay. How do you know the difference between control and influence? If people don't immediately do what you're trying to influence them to do, and you get frustrated or angry or upset, you're not trying to influence them. You're trying to control them.
Ooh, come on now.
So the second thing that I cannot do after I realize that I cannot control everything.
This one is huge.
Ready? I cannot fix anyone.
My goodness. I love how you set that up because it is rooted in the great commandment, right? Because ultimately love the Lord with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. So it's rooted in that. And then the second part of that is love your neighbors, you love yourself. And so how you act and respond is then going to be translated in how you deal with other people. And man, bro, this is such a hard thing because we're all impacted by the decisions of other people.
So
especially when you have somebody who has some dysfunctional things in their life that has, some significant impact on like your overall emotional wholeness and wellness and whatever. And so our, particularly for those of us that are believers, man, the reality is we often have a savior complex,
bro,
where we want to go and fix people.
Bro, can I throw something, Chris?
I want you to throw it.
I'm not afraid of terms like, the patriarchal. I'm not afraid of like calling out gender differences.
Yeah.
But I'm going to tell you right now, women, I think, really need to pay attention to this one.
Yes.
Because I think women more than men are relationship mechanics.
Okay.
I think that if you think about, in fact, psychologists for years actually called this the Florence Nightingale syndrome.
Yeah.
That even young girls as teenagers have a tendency to go after the bad boy. And they're going to, well, you just don't understand him and you just don't, and they're going to fix him. Right.
Yeah.
And I think that women, we're all guilty of this. We all enter into the game. We're all in relationships and it affects us. But I think this is something because the second thing we're talking about is you can't fix anyone.
Yeah.
I don't think men try to fix each other. I think men basically say, I'm going to put it in your face. If you don't respond the way I want you to respond, I'm going to cut you off. Mm-hmm. I think that's usually the more male response. The more female response is often, that it's well, but if you really knew them, you don't really know them. You don't really know. And I think, Chris, here's the thing. This is so important because I've seen situations where people want the other person to do the right thing, to change, to make better decisions.
Yeah.
not just for them, not just for the person.
Yeah.
Do you want the transformation for them, or do you want the transformation for you?
Yeah.
Are you wanting that person to transform because you love them so much? This is what Jesus does. Husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church and gave himself for it. What that means is that I'm going to lay my life down, use my influence so that my wife can experience the type of unconditional love that Jesus showed me.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing about it is oftentimes what we do is, if I do A, B, C, and D, then I'm going to get 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Right.
And it's hard to remove that from the equation. And I understand, that relationship's more dynamic than just simply, it's not digital. It's not just like, it's not on or off or binary, but I understand it's very dynamic. But again, it goes back to this place, Chris, that I think it's so important. You cannot fix anyone.
You can't fix anybody.
You can't.
No, you can't. And I think a lot of times what happens is when you enter into this mode, what ends up happening is you become an enabler and you go in, and the reality is, the reality is God uses the consequences of decisions as a motivator, right? You've heard it said before, until the pain of staying the same is greater than the pain of change, you're never going to change. So as long as you go in and try to fix somebody by eliminating consequences of their decisions and so forth, you think you're doing good, but really what you're trying to do is you're trying to fix that person. In reality, what really needs to happen is they need to be like the prodigal son. What did he do? He came to himself. He looked around and was like, my God, what am I doing? I'm in a pig pen. My father's house has everything that I need. What am I doing here? If you remove the consequences of his decisions and lifestyle, he would have never come to himself. And I think particularly for parents, bro, this is such a hard one because you hate to see your children suffer and hate to see, and, trying to find that balance of helping them, but then also feeling the consequences. And this is where, again, it goes back to being rooted in faith and unbelief. And do we really believe that the Spirit of God is going to work through the consequences of those decisions that they've made, and that God is going to continue to draw, is going to continue to bring them back? And if we fix it, like, here's the reality, like, here's the stark reality, Ken. We've seen it. I could tell you a story. I won't go into details because of the sensitivity of it, but like hard conversations with parents that have had to deal with the death of their children.
Right.
And because of enabling behavior,
right,
you think you're fixing someone. That's the reality. You think you're fixing someone, but you're really not.
No. Well, Chris, the thing is you and I both, and perhaps the pastors that are listening today could probably identify people that have come to us, people in relationships that everybody's looking at it going, what are you doing?
Yeah.
What are you doing? Yeah. What are
Everybody sees it, right?
What are you doing in that relationship? And what's interesting is what ends up happening is the person gets so emotionally invested in the relationship. They get so locked into the relationship that what ends up happening is whether it's a friendship, whether it's a romantic relationship, or whether it's a relationship of paternal, familial, whatever it might be. Sometimes what happens is, so some of the relationships we can choose and some of them we cannot. But in situations, even where, using the example of all of a sudden somebody starts dating and everybody sees the issue, but then what happens is you notice it gets to the point where the person has a hard time actually blaming the person and blaming their behavior on, you know what, you're seeing them. That's who they are. But they've made up in their mind so much that no, No. That's not who they are. I've seen the good in them. And then they begin to blame others. Well, if the church would just do this, and if people would just do that, and if they would just help, rather than just sort of being honest and saying, you know what, I need to be at least honest. Should the church influence? Yes. Should people help? Yes.
Absolutely.
But can you be honest enough to look at that situation and say, that's who that person is. That's what you've got. That's what you've gotten yourself into. Do you have the guts to get out of it?
Absolutely. 100%. And I agree. Don't swing on the pendulum and be like, well, I'm not going to help anybody. I'm going to let them just do whatever. No, we should step in. But I think this is why we believe so much in this. What did Jesus do? Jesus asked them hard questions that he gave them. Here's the thing. The evidence of real respect, right? If anybody could have manipulated people into conformity, it would have been Jesus.
Well, that's so good. Controlled, you mean?
Yeah, he could have twisted. If anybody could have
controlled them.
Yeah, and manipulated them to get what he wanted. Right?
Yeah, but manipulation is actually one of the worst forms of control.
100%. And so like he could have totally done that. But what did he do? He put them in places of tension. He asked them hard questions. He showed them love. The rich young ruler is a great example. He loved him as he walked away, but Jesus respected him enough, even though he knows what the consequences of that decision is going to be. Jesus didn't try to fix that. He didn't try to control that. He just let him make those decisions, but he asked him the hard questions. Asked him to do the hard things. That's what respect looks like.
And isn't it interesting that there? And I know it's extra biblical writings that suggest that the rich young ruler was, in fact, Joseph of Arimathea.
Right.
And it does look like at some point that when he sees the cross, when he sees Jesus give his life, when he begins to understand. This guy's offering me this stuff and I'm holding on to that. I mean, I don't know that it's provable.
Sure.
And I love, Ken Bastarkey makes a great point. He comments, when a reporter asked Elvis Presley's bodyguard, why didn't you protect him? Right? You're talking about from the drug abuse and all the things that eventually took his life.
Yeah.
The bodyguard replied, how do you protect a man from himself?
Yeah.
I mean, so, all right, let's roll into the third one. I think we've hit that. I cannot fix anyone, I cannot fix anyone. Third one, I cannot explain everything. Wow. Isn't it interesting that sometimes being in control philosophically looks like a person that's a know-it-all? I think Chris, I think people in our world today have so much information at their fingertips and just a click of a mouse and, the World Wide Web, all of those things, www, all of its search engines, now AI, all the information available can help people know a little bit about a lot of things. Yeah. And it's interesting because humans can go in and they can do research about. Doctors are actually saying that it's becoming more and more and more difficult to treat patients. Now, I understand the flip side. You and I we're on this health journey, and we both understand that there are some things that the medical industry hasn't brought forward. It's starting to change slowly, but it used to be, we'll just give them a pill, just give them a prescription, whatever, when really changing their diet and so on could, so I think there's some benefit. But sure. Doctors are saying it's becoming increasingly difficult to treat patients because they come in thinking they know what the doctor needs to do for them.
Right.
Pastors are having a more and more difficult time pastoring people because people get a touch from God, and the next thing you know, they spend the next week on YouTube and become internet disciples. And the next thing you know, they have all the opinions that are formed by everything, and they listen to a video by some expert about something, and now they feel like that they have some level of expertise. And if you say, no, that's not right, they're like, see, he doesn't know. And so there is a real issue today in our world.
Yeah.
That because of the fact, I think that humans have a tendency to want to figure everything out. Humans have a tendency to want to figure it out for themselves. And that's not, of course, altogether a bad thing, but it is a bad thing when God's given you everything you need to know. and you, because of the fact that you want to take the fruit and know it for yourself, it is the original sin. You can know it for yourself. You don't need God to tell you. You don't need some source. You don't need some ultimate source of truth. You can eat that fruit and you can be like God's and know.
Shoo.
And I think I think when we start talking about, I cannot explain everything, I think that this is a kind of humility that actually could help us not fall prey to deception in the last days, where evil men and seducers will wax worse and worse. Doctrines of demons will enter into the world. I think this is something we need to have enough humility to say, I cannot explain everything. It's not just I'm not a know-it-all. No, it is, I am not the source of truth, and Jesus is. That's huge, I think.
100%, man. That's so good. And you're so spot on. I think this access to all this information, has done like both things at the same time. It's produced this deal of feeling like we're smarter than we really are, right? But I think it's also produced a lot of confusion because you don't know who or what to believe. Because we've been on this hell journey, like, you'll get one guy saying, well, you need to do these supplements, and another guy saying, well, you need to do these supplements, and you got all these different things that starts to breed confusion. And so this is why I think it's important. This is why we go back in discipleship all the time, that you've got to be rooted and grounded in his word and in his spirit. That's what has to lead you in all of that. The other thing I'll just mention real quick on explaining is I think a lot of times we feel like, again, if we just give people enough information, then they'll make better decisions, or they'll kind of, going back to number 2, controlling people. If I just give them good information, if I just explain to them clearly, surely they'll understand it and they'll get it. But you're missing so many different variables. To use your oft quoted Francis Schaeffer quote, right?
There it is.
If I've got 60 minutes, I'm going to spend 55 minutes getting to know them, so the last 5 minutes I can make it gospel to them. What we typically do is we try to take the whole 60 minutes and explain all the things to them without really understanding where they are or where they come from, because we feel like if we explain it good enough, how can you argue? How can you there's emotional variables, there's experiential variables, there's all these factors in their lives that we're not aware of. And this is why I think two components here: asking questions so you can understand, you can come from a place of understanding. And number 2, personally, we've got to be rooted and grounded in his word, so that becomes the source of our own understanding.
Michael Hanks says, I used to tell people that knowledge is power, but now I feel like that phrase needs to be modified. Much knowledge can be confusing and even dangerous. Man, that's so good. And I think, Chris, just what you're saying too, combined with, what Pastor Hanks just from California just said.
Threw that in there. I like that.
What he says, I think it harkens back to what you're saying as well. In that when we talk about making disciples, this is why we say our job is not to make ideological disciples or ideological followers. It is to make people Christ followers. And I think that thinking that if I could give them enough information, I could convince them. We cannot forget the old adage. We're giving a lot of people some Velcro statements today, like the one you mentioned from Francis Schaeffer. Here's another one. What did you say? There was another one you just mentioned a moment ago when you were talking about, what was the statement that you said? You were talking about Saban.
Processes over outcomes.
Yeah. But there was a statement you said you led into that with, and I
control the controllables.
Yeah. What happens is, and I think this is huge, because when we're talking about, knowledge and information and those things, if we think, well, I can convince them, I can explain it good enough that I can convince him. And the old adage says, a man convinced against his will is of the same opinion still.
Absolutely.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how good you know the Greek. If a person doesn't have a disciplable heart, you might as well just sit back, which goes back to that second part. You cannot fix anyone, which, by the way, I think we've handled this second one or this third one pretty well, which is our third one was I cannot explain everything. And this leads into our fourth one. I cannot meet everyone's expectations. This kind of turns the corner a little bit. Okay. This is sort of the middle of our 8 things. And when we say I cannot meet everyone's expectations, this one I think is this almost flips the script on the first one. I cannot control everything. I think that sometimes people, especially if you're in positions of power, or if you're in positions of influence, or you're in a position that can affect their life outcome.
Yeah.
You said you were talking about manipulation. There's various things that we could talk about here. But when we say, I cannot meet everyone's expectations, look, sometimes people put expectations on you because they want you to be something for them.
Yeah.
They want you to do something for them. Life feels more secure if you as a pastor have all of the answers.
Yeah.
And sometimes what happens is people project those kinds of things. I have to be able to be a disciple. Boy, here we go. Here we go, Chris. I have to be a disciple enough that I don't get my ego stroked by people thinking that I'm the smartest guy that they've met.
Yeah.
I can't get my ego stroked by people thinking that I've got all the answers about all the stuff.
Right.
I have to be able to be an under shepherd, which means I'm pointing to the great shepherd. And I think that when I say I cannot meet everyone's expectations, sometimes, Chris, people project their expectations on us because it's who they want or need us to be.
Ooh, man, bro. One of the best messages, you sent it to me a long time ago, and I've used this so many times. Don Mears preached a message called "Who Did Jesus Serve?" And the essence of the message was basically this: Jesus came to serve people, but the reason so many hated Jesus and wanted to kill him was because Jesus refused to serve their agenda. And he was that, like, his focus was, I'm going to do the will of the Father. Like, that's what so that doesn't mean, and again, this is all the balance things, right? Like there's all of these things can swing out of a healthy place and go into an unhealthy place. We do need influence of other people, but in reality, like, we're blessed because we were raised by parents that put in us to be deeply principled. You live your life off of principle. You don't live your life off of what other people are going to think, how it's going to affect them. Because if you start doing that, if you start making decisions as leaders, you start making decisions. Well, if I do this, it's going to make this person mad.
Yeah.
Well, then you do something.
Yeah, right. Lift your finger and stick it in the air. Politicians today, are accused of not having any backbone. They just want to make decisions to get reelected and stay in power.
Right. And one of the things I think, love him or hate him, one of the things that I think there's a draw to Trump is kind of like, you know what, this is what we're going to do. I don't care if people hate it or not, whatever. And so again, we're not saying have that kind of spirit and attitude, but if you start making decisions, well, if I do this, then it might offend this person, so I'm gonna make this decision. Well, guess what happens? You've got 5 other people on the other side that, because you made the decision to please this one person, it's going to offend them. And so what you got to do is you got to be true to the principles. You got to be true to the call of God, who he is in your life. Like, you've got to be true to those things, and you've got to approach it with humility. I think where we get into trouble with this is with arrogance.
Yeah.
Bless God, I'm going to do it my way. I'm not going to do. No, that's not what we're saying. We're saying, but I can't live my life to please other people. Yeah.
Or, you know what? Or leadership volatility.
Sure.
Like you said, sometimes leadership volatility is that, everybody's got an opinion and everybody, especially when things get in a little bit of turmoil, and people have, they have their opinion about what we should do next.
Yeah.
And, so on and so forth. I had someone text me, I don't know, a week or two ago. There was a situation where a relatively new convert posted about a situation, and I replied and responded. I just simply said amen. And it was a situation that's a hot button topic in our culture today. But the person said in the message, the person had said about the and I don't want to identify this scenario, but the person had basically said, I don't agree with this. But Jesus told me to love my enemies. And these people, even though their sin is not my sin and it might not be your sin, they still need a savior, and I'm still going to show them the love of God.
Sure.
And they can still come around for Christmas and blah, 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 blah. I got a text from someone in the church, and I'm just going to say it like this, and I hope I don't offend this person, but had the audacity to text their pastor and say, I can't believe you'd say that. I can't believe that you'd put amen on there. But because of the fact that I'm not a weak leader and I'm not a fearful leader, I responded back and said, what about that do you have a problem with? Go back and reread what the person said. Mm-hmm. The person is literally framing this situation properly inside of a biblical context and saying, like, they need salvation. They need to know the gospel. They can be transformed just like that I was transformed. But what I'm saying is that that's the kind of leadership volatility that I'm talking about. That sometimes what happens is we begin to say, you have to come to the conclusion, I can't meet everyone's expectations. And, I'm not going to fall prey of trying to be the pastor that you want me to be.
Right.
And this goes back, Chris, to what you were saying. I wanted to tie this into what you said about Don Mears. Because what Don Mears was saying about who did Jesus serve, that was the title of the message.
Yeah.
Jesus said, I have come to serve the will of him who sent me.
Yeah.
What Don Mears was saying was he was serving the will of the Father. He did not come to serve the people. His serving, so he was serving up. So when he did what he did it because this is what Jesus wanted for them. It wasn't because this is what they wanted from Jesus.
Yeah.
It's what the Father wanted for them.
Yes.
That Jesus had come to bring.
Right.
And that's huge.
It is huge. It is huge. That's so good. All right, we're up against the clock. Let's go to the next one, because I want to get through some of these, and I've really wanted to get to this one because I've been thinking about this and was even talking about maybe doing a podcast on this one. Number 5, things I cannot do.
Yep.
I cannot dodge the hard tasks of life. Man, I was thinking about this. We do so much in our world, Ken, to make our lives as easy and as comfortable as we can possibly make them. And that's just not the reality of the world that we live in. And we need to have things in our lives that challenge us. Okay. So like we're talking about these health things and whatever.
Right.
I've started zone 2 training. Dude, the last thing that I want to do is go and spend 30 minutes on a treadmill. I did leg day the other day. My legs were killing me. And I'm like, I do not want to do 30 minutes on the treadmill. And I'm like, but I need to do this because I need to prepare myself that you can do hard things and you can overcome the challenges and the difficulties. And, again, sports, the cliche of coaches, everything that you desire is on the other side of hard.
Right.
And we live in a society, in a world that has done everything they can to eliminate hard things. And that's just not the reality of the world we live in. I'm not saying be a masochist. I'm not saying try to make things hard in your life, but I'm saying you need to have something that you're doing that is producing discipline, that's letting your flesh know it's not in control, and that you're willing to push through when your flesh says, I can't do this, and you have the will and determination to press through and to push through. That's good discipleship training.
Yeah. And that's the thing. And Jesus said, in your patience, possess ye your souls. And sometimes when we read that, we read we look at the word patience and we think that what that means is It's funny, but we think that means to sit back and wait. I mean, for us, the word patience is, right, to sit back and wait. But what we know is the word patience actually in the Greek it actually means endurance.
Yeah.
Did you know that?
Right.
Right. It's patience and endurance is like hupomone is one, and another one is macrothumia. Okay. So hupomone is hupo is under, right? Hypo or hyper is above. Right. Hupo is under. So hupostasis is the word for substance. The faith is the substance. Hupostasis. Hupo is under. Hupomone means to bear up. So the word hupomone means to bear up under.
Under, right.
So when Jesus said, in your patience, possess ye your souls, he was not saying in your ability to sit there, fold your hands nicely and wait. He's saying literally in your ability to bear up underneath it or to endure.
You possess so good, souls. Man. That's so good. And it's such a needed thing in our world today. You know, again, there are difficult things that you're going to go through, and you've got to establish the pattern in your life that you have determination, you have that endurance piece, you have that willing to bear up under the hardships and the difficulties of life. You have to do that.
Made up.
All right. Number six. I cannot concern myself with who gets the credit. Bro, preach on that just a little bit.
Bro, I'm telling
you, in our world, Jesus have mercy.
Well, that's, I think that goes back to getting the credit is a part of our brokenness.
Yeah.
It's a part of our validation. It's also a part of, I think it's also a part of the fruit of doing the work.
Sure.
You do the work, you want the credit.
Right.
And so when you say, who cares who gets the credit as long as you get the win, then Lord, that's hard, because that means that you got to want the win more than you want the credit.
Shoo-wee, man. And this is such a big thing in our world today, because this is why discipleship is so critical. You have to let Jesus heal the vulnerabilities in your life that would try to steal credit away from him, or feeling like that credit brings some sort of validation.
Yeah.
And the driving factor and force of everything we do has to be, does it please the Lord?
Recognition, isn't it?
That's it.
People want to be recognized. Yeah.
And at what point was Joseph a failure and a success?
For real.
Right? Like, he was a success the whole way through because he was faithful through what the places God placed him in. That's what has to drive us.
All right. Number seven, I cannot cling to the past. And let's do 7 and 8 together.
Let's do it.
7 is I cannot cling to the past. Number 8 is hold on.
And I'll put these in I cannot do what I must do in my human ability alone. And I'll put these in the chat.
All right. So would you like to speak to that? I cannot cling to the past, and I cannot do what I must do in my human ability alone.
Absolutely.
Wow.
I actually had this thought yesterday, and I was thinking about, in our hometown, Trout Gymnasium was like a memorial, I mean, it was like a sacred institution in Illinois sports. Right. And
it was a high school sports mecca.
Absolutely. In the country.
No, that's what I'm saying. High school sports for the winningest basketball team in America.
Yeah.
Their gym is going to be a mecca.
Right. And they built a new school and they have a new gym and all that. And I'm sure that there were people that were like, oh, what do we need a new gym for? What do we need this? Well, the reason you need a new gym is because there were limitations, because there were things that it just wasn't conducive to the modern things and whatever. And I think what happens a lot of times is because we hold a romantic view of our personal experiences in those moments, that it produces this unhealthy affection for those things.
Right.
It's okay to value and appreciate it and be able to say, you know what, man, Trout Gym was amazing. It was awesome. It was there was no experience watching a basketball game like watching a game in Trout Gymnasium. But it's 2026.
Yeah. And to be able to say that the new gym is certainly no Trout Gym.
No. Right. Right. But it also has a lot of things that Trout Gym could never have and could never do. And it's okay to continue to move forward.
Right.
And so
Not
here,
cling to the
what's
past. Yeah.
What's the reality? The reality is time doesn't stop.
Right.
We're moving forward. You can hold on to the past all you want to, but nobody's living there, including you.
Well, you know what's so funny, Chris, is Sammy Snodsmith put a group of pictures on Facebook from a game, and I looked at the game and thought to myself, wow, how sad. That gym is only like half full, and it's not because it has more seats.
Right.
And but here's the deal. My first thought was, boy, Trout Gym was never that empty.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what I'm saying is you have to be careful, because this can be a little bit more insidious. This can be a little bit more underneath the surface than we like.
Sure.
Like it's very much on the surface when you're saying, hey, we're building a new school, we're building a new gym, we're going to be moving from Trout Gym to the new gym. And you're like, I don't like that. You know, Trout Gym is it's a centerpiece of an institution, et cetera. And like you said, but it was old. They actually had to go in there and redo the entire infrastructure to hold it up, et cetera, et cetera. And so it needed to be replaced.
Sure.
But even then, when I went and looked at the game, Chris, I looked and saw a half full gymnasium and thought, wow, it is this. I mean, where are people at? And here's what's funny. People didn't go to the basketball game in 1987 when I played basketball because it was Trout Gym. They went to the gym because it was a different era.
Right.
And it's not because they'd moved from Trout Gym to a new gym that there was only half the building full.
Absolutely.
I looked at it and I'm like, how sad, man. I mean, like there wasn't a seat left in the house in 1987. But the problem isn't the gym. But if we have a misplaced romanticism about the past, we'll misdirect our assumptions, and we will misassociate the problem.
Man, that's so good.
We won't actually figure out what the real problem is.
Century is not the same thing that it was in 1987.
That's what I'm saying.
The city's totally different.
The city, the people,
enrollment,
right.
All of those kinds of things.
I'm like, where's the student section?
Yeah.
You know. So and then look, hit number 8 for us real quick, would you?
Sure. I can't do what I must do in my human ability. The reality that we all understand is that there are things that we can and should do, but the things that God has called us to do without Him, right? The tension, without Him, we can do nothing, but with Him, all things are possible. I can do all things through Christ, which strengthens me. And so trying to do it by our own understanding, our own intellect, our own wisdom, our own creative ideas, our own thoughts. Like we need the creativity of the Spirit of God. We need His direction. We need His understanding. And here's why, because our ability is so finite. Whatever it is, it is absolutely limited. But when you take your resources and make yourself available for the infinite resources of Jesus, now that's when you step into the realm where anything is possible.
If Jesus has opened the door and ushered us into a supernatural kingdom, if we don't receive supernatural power and new birth and become new creatures, then we're no different than God just placing us like cows in a pasture.
Yeah.
If all we do is get into the kingdom and we just sit there and eat grass and be cows, it would be some kind of a farm animal out on the pasture field somewhere. But if but to cooperate, to operate in that kingdom that is a supernatural kingdom, then we have to receive supernatural power. We can't operate in our flesh. We can't operate, because if we operate in our flesh, we're operating in an old kingdom, and it doesn't work in this new kingdom. And so we still have to integrate our will. We still have to integrate, our heart and our mind. We still have to apply and give those things to him. But then he takes it and he mingles it with his supernaturality, and gives us the ability to be co-laborers with him.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, man, great conversation. And just, again, I put these in the chat. Can't control everything. I can't fix anyone. I can't explain everything. I can't meet everyone's expectations. I can't dodge hard tasks of life. I can't concern myself with who gets the credit. I can't cling to the past, and I can't do what I must do in my human ability alone. So
good.
Such a practical conversation. And the reality is we could pause on each one of those and do a whole episode on each individual topic. But we wanted to really start the year off with some practical discipleship. This is discipleship. This is leadership. Like, these things are applicable for all of us, regardless of where you're at in your role of life, personal discipleship, whatever.
100%. Great job today, Chris. You again proved that you're a trained podcast professional.
Starting off 2026 strong, baby. Let's go.
It's
a new year. So we had great insight today and comments from people. We appreciate you doing that. Appreciate you being a part. And of course, we're looking forward to a great year. Thank you for being on today. We look forward to coming back to you next Tuesday around 10 o'clock. Until then,